Hello there. Welcome to Whispers.exe, where the silence watches back. The following story is a work of fiction created for atmospheric and entertainment purposes. With that being said, get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the dark settle in. It begins like most things do, quiet, unnoticed, and far too late to stop. Shadow Drummers of Hollow Lake. They say the wind carries stories in Hollow Lake. It hisses through the dead trees with a voice older than the language it once spoke. And when the snow piles up in silence, you can hear them. The drums, slow and deep, like a heartbeat made of bone and smoke. Hollow Lake is not a place you find by accident. It is an old reservation town in the north, walled in by spruce and the weight of its own memory. People don't move there. They're born into it like a debt. It sits around the lake like a ring of frostbitten teeth, its few roads tapering into nothing. The winters last too long. The sky loses color, and time stops behaving like time. There's a saying the elders have, spoken only in whispers, only in the cold months. The ice remembers. Every February, just before the worst of the thaw, they hold the festival. The ancestors must be honored, fed, thanked. A great fire is lit on the ice. Dancers come wrapped in furs, masked in wooden faces carved with hollow eyes and slit mouths. Offerings are placed at the center of the lake. Tobacco, fish bones, birch bark soaked in oil. And always, always the drums. Deep, slow rhythms struck by unseen hands. No one plays them. No one knows where they come from. But when the wind stills and the last breath of smoke hangs above the crowd, they begin. This year, something was different. It snowed too early, the ice thickened before it should have, and the drums were wrong, too slow, too loud, as if closer. Some said they felt them in their chest. Others swore they saw ripples under the fire, but no one said anything. Not really. Not out loud. I was visiting my cousin May that winter. She teaches at the schoolhouse on the far side of town, the side nearest the woods. She's the kind of person you want around in winter. Calm, measured, unbothered by creaks in the night or strange shapes moving through the snow. I'd just gotten out of something messy in the city. Some breakdown of trust. A job I quit without warning. A loneliness that got too loud. May said I could stay with her, just for a while, just to get quiet again. She made space on her couch, gave me a key I didn't need. I remember thinking how thick the quiet felt when I arrived. The festival took place 3 days after I got there. The townsfolk gathered as they always did, trudging out onto the frozen lake in layered boots and red scarves. I followed May, clutching a thermos and trying not to let the cold bite too deep. The masks unnerved me. They always had. Something about the way they don't move, how they hover between expression and absence. The dancers swayed slowly, circling the fire, heads tilting in jerks that didn't look human. Then the wind stopped, and the drums began. I remember May's fingers tightening on my wrist, just for a second, just until the first beat faded. The sound was low and vast, not like something echoing through the trees, but like it was being struck directly beneath our feet. My legs trembled. The dancers didn't stop. The fire hissed. Smoke coiled upward into the black sky like an invitation, and the drums kept going, 4 slow beats, then silence, then another 4, a rhythm like warning, a rhythm like waiting. That night, no one lingered. The snow began falling again before we'd even left the lake, thick, quiet flakes like ash from a burned prayer. May didn't speak on the walk home, neither did I. There was something hanging in the silence between us. Not fear exactly, but the kind of dread that doesn't show itself all at once. Just a suggestion. Just a nudge. The next morning, the first hole appeared, right under May's bedroom. A perfect circle, 5 feet across, bored through the ice like something had melted its way up from below. She called me out to see it. We stood at the shoreline, breath fogging in the cold. From the angle of her house, we could see directly onto the lake. There it was, black water, still and waiting, surrounded by white, no cracks, no footprints, just a hole. Maybe it's runoff, May said, though her voice lacked weight. There hasn't been any warming, I replied. We stared a while longer. No one else was outside. The street was empty, the lake quiet. The hole didn't make sense. It was too clean, too precise. More appeared the next day, one behind the grocer's, another beside the post office, all perfectly circular, all beneath buildings, as if the ice had been measured and chosen. No one said the word haunting. Not yet. But it lingered anyway. In the glances people gave each other, in the silence on the local radio, in the way the dogs stopped barking at night, and the drums, they came back. Not during the day, not during any gathering, but at night, between 3 and 4 in the morning. Just 4 beats. Then silence. Always 4, always the same, always coming from beneath the ice. I started waking up just before they started, not from sound, but from something else, a pressure, like the air had been pushed out of the room. I'd lie on May's couch, eyes open in the dark, and wait. And then the 4 beats, low, slow, inevitable, like a ritual too old to stop performing. One night, May didn't wake up. I stood in the hallway, listening. Her door was closed, no light beneath it. I knocked softly, no answer. After a moment, I went back to the living room and pulled the blanket tighter. But I couldn't sleep. The sound of the drums kept vibrating in my ribs long after they stopped, like they were inside me now. I started walking to the lake in the mornings, just to see, just to know. The holes kept appearing, one by one, all beneath homes or places where people slept. There were 23 by the end of the week. Some houses emptied, some families left, most stayed. May stayed. "I've heard the stories," she said one night. We were sitting by the small fire pit in her backyard, the snow packed around us like a cradle. "What stories?" She looked at me a long time before answering. "The drums were always part of the festival, but a long time ago, before I was born, there was a winter where they didn't stop." I said nothing. She went on. "They kept coming, every night, and the ice started changing. People said they saw shapes under it, faces." She glanced at the lake. "We couldn't see it from here, but we felt it. You always feel it. They drained it that spring, said it was for safety, but after that, the drums only played at the ceremony, and no one spoke about it again." "Until now," I whispered. May didn't answer. She just stood, kicked snow over the fire, and went back inside. I followed, heart ticking too fast. The wind was still, and somewhere beneath the frozen dark, the drums were waiting. The next day, May found something on her porch, a ring of small stones arranged in a perfect circle, each one marked with a single black line drawn or burned into the surface. She didn't say anything when she saw them, just stood there, staring, her breath curling into the frozen air like something frightened trying not to show it. I stepped closer. "They weren't here last night," I said quietly. May didn't move. Her eyes stayed on the stones, as if something might shift if she looked away. After a moment, she bent down, picked one up, and turned it over in her gloved hand. It was warm. We left them. Neither of us said why, but we did. That night, I dreamt of the lake. Still and dark, the surface cracked with slow spiraling lines like veins. Something beneath it was moving, not swimming, not crawling, just pressing upward in slow pulses. No eyes, no face, just weight, just shape. I watched from above, unable to move. The sound of the drums beat in my chest like a second heart. When I woke, my nose was bleeding, and the drums had stopped 5 minutes earlier. May didn't ask about the dream, but I could tell she'd had one too. Her eyes were red, but she hadn't cried. Not like that. Not the kind of red that comes from grief, the kind that comes from not sleeping, from seeing something you can't forget. The town had gone quiet in a new way. People still moved, groceries were still bought, tires still spun slush in the street, but something essential had withdrawn. Laughter was gone. Music didn't play from open windows anymore. The church bell didn't ring on Sundays, and the holes kept appearing. 28, then 32, then 37. There was a pattern. May found it first. She laid out a map of the town on the dining table, used toothpicks and pins to mark each spot. And when we connected the dots, they made a spiral, wide and slow at first, then tightening, curving in toward the lake's center, toward the fire pit from the ceremony, toward the place where the drums had first begun. "That's where it's going," she whispered. "What is?" She looked up at me, and for the first time since I'd arrived, I saw something behind her eyes I didn't recognize. Not fear. Recognition. "My grandfather used to say the lake was never ours," she said. "That it was given to us with conditions, that it had rules, and the drums were a way of remembering that. Not celebration, not ceremony, warning." She traced the spiral again with her fingertip. "We forgot." That night, I couldn't sleep again. The wind had picked up, but it didn't sound like wind. It had rhythm, a subtle pulse just beneath the gusts. I wrapped myself in 2 blankets and sat by the window, staring at the dark. Then I saw something, a shape moving slowly across the lake. It wasn't a person. Too tall, too narrow. It seemed to waver, like heat over asphalt. It paused near one of the holes, then slowly tilted its head as if listening. Then it sank, just folded downward as if melting into the surface. The next morning, the ice in that spot was gone. May started keeping her lights off at night. She said it made the house less noticeable, less inviting. I didn't argue. We stayed in the dark together, sometimes in the same room, sometimes separated by silence and thin walls. The drums came every night now, without fail, louder, 4 beats, then a breathless pause, then 4 more. Each time, the air grew tighter, colder, like the house itself was holding its breath. Then came the night we both saw them. We were on the back porch, wrapped in blankets, not speaking. The sky was moonless, the trees still. Then, from the far edge of the lake, shadows emerged. They walked in single file, slow, deliberate steps, as if the cold had no effect. At first, they looked like people, but as they drew closer, it became clear their proportions were wrong. Too tall, limbs too long, heads tilted forward like they were listening to something deep beneath the snow. Each one carried something in their hands, a drum. But they didn't play them. Not yet. They walked to the center of the lake and stopped. The wind died. The trees didn't move. Then one by one, they turned to face us. May reached for my hand, her fingers ice cold. They stood like that for several minutes, watching, not moving. Then the first drum beat rang out, not from them, from beneath them. And they vanished. The next morning, there were no new holes, but something had changed. The birds were gone. No prints, no feathers, just absence. May said the town used to follow the crows. When they left, winter was done. This time they hadn't waited for spring. We packed that day. She didn't say it aloud, but I knew. She was leaving. I asked where she would go. She didn't know, just away. She told me I could come. I said I would think about it. That night I stayed up again. May had gone to bed early. I sat by the window staring out, and then I heard it. A new sound. Not drums, scraping, slow rhythmic scratching from underneath the floorboards. I held still. It continued. 3 scrapes, then a pause. 3 more. I stood and crept toward May's room. The door was ajar. I pushed it open. May was gone. The blankets were still warm. No signs of struggle. No sound. Just one thing. A single stone on her pillow marked with a black line. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just turned, walked out of the house, and went to the lake. The moon had returned. It lit the surface in silver, and in the center I saw them, the figures, standing motionless, waiting. I walked until the cold burned through my boots, until the lake groaned beneath me, until I stood at the edge of the last hole. I looked down. The water was black and silent, but something was there, not a shape, not a body, an absence, something old, something awake. Then the drum started, 4 beats, then silence, and beneath it I heard May's voice, faint, distant, singing a lullaby I'd forgotten she knew. I leaned closer, closer, and the ice gave way. The cold hit first, not like falling into water, more like being swallowed, a thick, choking cold that pressed in from every side, the kind that doesn't just freeze skin, it hushes you from the inside, softens the rhythm of your heart, tells your lungs to stop fighting. But I didn't die. I opened my eyes, though I don't remember closing them. There was no lake, no surface above, only darkness and sound, the drums. But they weren't around me now. They were within me. Not a vibration in the air, but in the bones. My breath moved to their rhythm. 4. Then silence. 4 more. It felt like a countdown, but never ended, only circled. Shapes passed beside me, not swimming, drifting. Some looked like people, some didn't. None had faces. They moved with a kind of reverence or resignation, as if this was their place, as if I was trespassing. I tried to speak, but the words sank from my lips like stones. No sound, only rhythm. Only that cursed rhythm. I floated or sank. I don't know how long. There was no day, no night. Only that gentle, aching pulse of sound. It felt like memory, like grief stretched into sound, a mourning that had forgotten its cause. Then I saw her, May, or something wearing May's shape. She stood on the underside of the ice, feet planted where the surface should have been, looking down at me like I was the one out of place. Her eyes were shut, her lips moved. No sound came out, but I understood her, even without hearing. Go back. I tried to move toward her, but my body didn't obey. The water resisted, not violently, just deliberately, like it didn't want to give me back. May's form began to fade, not vanish, but dissolve, the way a name dissolves from memory when you haven't spoken it in too long. I felt panic rising, a deep, sudden terror that I was forgetting something important. Not just May, myself. I screamed, though I don't remember making a sound. Everything around me shivered. The drums stopped. Then light. Not bright, not warm, just present. A low glow pulsing from the depths below me. It didn't illuminate anything. It just made the dark visible in new shapes. The spiral again, the same as May had drawn on the map. But this one was alive, and it was growing. I closed my eyes, tight, and something touched my back, a hand. Small, cold. It didn't pull. It just rested. It's a reminder, a presence, a choice. Then I was rising, fast, like being exhaled, thrown from a place that had decided I didn't belong. The last thing I heard before breaking the surface was a single beat. One drum, alone. Final. I awoke in the snow, on the edge of the lake, shivering, soaked, gasping. The ice was whole again, no hole, no sign of fracture, but the spiral was there, faint, just beneath the surface, etched like a scar. The town was silent, no lights, no footprints. I walked back to May's house, empty, cold, as if no one had ever lived there. Her things were gone, so were mine. Even the couch, only the walls remained. I wandered through the town, house to house, all of them the same, empty, preserved. The kind of silence that feels pressed like a flower between pages, like the town had been archived. I found no one, no voices, no wind, no birds. The only sound was mine, the crunch of boots on old snow, the breath of someone left behind. I returned to the lake because there was nowhere else to go. It was still, wide, unbroken. But I noticed something. In the center, a figure. Small, still, a child, wrapped in furs too large for her. She turned slowly as I approached, face half lit by moonlight. She didn't speak, but I knew her, not from life, from somewhere else, from a story once told in fragments. She held a drum, but didn't play it. Instead, she held it out to me, as if offering a burden, a role, a memory. I didn't take it. I couldn't. She didn't insist. She only waited. Then she said one thing, a whisper I didn't hear, but understood anyway. We drum so you remember. Then she was gone, like smoke, like breath in winter air. I don't remember how long I stayed on the lake. Time doesn't return the way you expect it to. Eventually I walked, then drove, then existed. But something never followed me back. Something stayed behind. Or perhaps something came with me. The drums don't come every night, only some. At first, I thought it was in my head, a memory my body hadn't finished shaking. But I tested it. I listened to the timing. 4 beats. Always 4. I started recording. They don't show up in audio, but I can feel them. I've spoken to no one about it. Not really. There's no one to speak to. The town has no record, no maps show Hollow Lake anymore, no postmarks, not even a postal code. It's as if it was never there, but I remember, and some nights I still wake at 3:47 a.m., my chest tight, my ears humming, and I know what I'll hear. 4. Then silence. Then 4 again. There is a weight in the world we do not speak of, a rhythm that underlies everything, the heartbeat of what came before us and what will come again. We can forget it, we can pave it over, rename it, build on it, erase it from our maps, but it does not forget us. Somewhere beneath the cold, still surface, the drummers wait, not for vengeance, not for praise, only to remind. The ice remembers, always. I moved 3 times after that winter, each town further from the last, each apartment more windowless than the one before. It helped for a while. I surrounded myself with noise, radios, old televisions playing static, humming appliances, just to drown out the silence. Because silence was where it returned. The drums. 4. Then silence. Then 4. No one else could hear them. Even when I pressed the recorder directly to my chest or left it running beside my bed. Nothing. Just the hum of the room. But I knew. I felt them. I started marking the nights they came, circling them on a paper calendar. First it was once a week, then every 4 nights. Then, as the weather cooled, every single night. Like the spiral was tightening again. Like I was walking the same path inward, only in a different place. Then one morning, I found the stone. It was resting on the kitchen counter. A small, round pebble, gray with a faint black line across its center. Just like the ones on May's porch. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't touch it. Didn't breathe. It hadn't been there the night before. No one had keys. No sign of forced entry. just the stone. I threw it out the window, listened to it clink off the fire escape, went to work like nothing had changed, but it was waiting for me when I returned, on my pillow, perfectly centered. I stopped sleeping after that, only dozed, in corners of the room with the light on and a chair jammed under the doorknob. I told myself it was a dream, a relapse, my mind breaking under the weight of what it couldn't explain. But I knew better. You don't dream what you haven't seen, and you don't hear drums that aren't playing. 2 weeks passed before I saw the girl again. Not in the water, in the hallway mirror. I had left the bathroom light on, door cracked just enough for the glow to catch the edges of the glass, and there she was, behind me. Still, drum in hand, eyes empty like time had drained through them. I turned violently. No one. Just silence. And then, drums, closer than ever. 4. Then the creak of something settling, a board shifting in the floor, right beneath me. That night, I opened the floorboards, ripped up the cheap laminate with a crowbar I hadn't used in months. Beneath it, concrete, then nothing. But the sound was louder now, like it had climbed into the walls. I left the apartment, packed what little I still owned and drove. No plan, no destination, just distance. But the drums followed, every night, no matter where I stopped, the same rhythm, the same ache in my chest. I began to notice things, patterns, others like me. In gas stations at 3 a.m., in motels where no one asked your name, people who stared too long at puddles, who flinched at silence. We didn't speak, but we recognized each other, the way animals do in a forest that's grown too quiet. In one town, I found a mural, painted on the side of a burned-out library, faded and half-washed by rain, but still legible, a spiral, and beneath it, a phrase in red, "We drum so you remember." I sat there for hours, just watching the wall, trying to will it to speak, but it didn't need to. I already knew what it was saying. The girl began appearing more often, always just on the edge of my vision, in shop windows, in puddles, in dreams that bled into the morning. She never spoke again, just watched, waiting, sometimes holding the drum, sometimes not. I began to think she wasn't separate from the lake. She was the lake, its memory, its echo, wearing a shape I could understand. I returned to Hollow Lake, or tried to. There were no signs anymore, no exit markers, no pin on any map. My GPS spun endlessly in place, and when I asked the gas station clerk, he stared like I'd asked about a dead relative, but I knew where it had been. My body remembered the drive, the trees, the tight curve of the road before it opened to the water. So I followed that, and found nothing, just a field, wide and dry. Where the lake had been was now yellowed grass and skeletal birch trees. No snow, no ice, no sign there'd ever been water. But the spiral was still there, burned into the ground, not in fire, not in lines, in absence. I stood in the center, waited, no wind, no sound. Then, slowly, the drums returned, not from the ground, from me, my chest, my ribs, like a heart remembering a rhythm it hadn't beat in years. 4, then silence, then 4. I don't know how long I stood there, but when I left, the grass beneath my feet stayed flattened, pressed in a perfect circle. That was a year ago. Now the drums are constant. They don't wait for night. They echo in the hum of machines, in the silence between conversations, in the stillness of sleep. And I understand now what May meant, what the girl meant, what the lake tried to say. We are not above the ground we live on. We are inside it. We belong to it. And sometimes it remembers, not out of malice, not out of love, but out of need. There are things we've buried, stories, warnings, voices that never stopped whispering. We buried them under towns, under names, under silence. But silence is not forgetting. Silence is waiting. And when it's ready, it drums, not to harm, not to reclaim, but to remind. I am a reminder now. My heartbeat no longer belongs to me. I walk in spirals. I speak in rhythm. I see what waits beneath still waters. So if you wake one night and hear it, 4 beats, silence. 4 more. Do not run, do not pray, do not hide. Just remember. The ice never forgets. Sometimes I wonder how many of us there are now, those who have been marked, not possessed, not cursed, nothing so dramatic, just altered, retuned, like an instrument that only plays one song whether you choose to listen or not. I see them more often, on subway platforms and laundromats at night, people who flinch when a washing machine thuds just once too deeply, who pause when a car door slams in a rhythm, who glance down at cracks in sidewalks the way others look at gravestones. We do not speak, but we recognize. We hear it in one another, a silence that isn't empty, a rhythm behind the voice. I once met a man in a rest stop outside Omaha who pressed a small stone into my hand without a word. It had a mark, 3 lines, slashed through in a circle, not the same as before, but close. When I looked up, he was gone, just disappeared into a line of trucks, and I never saw him again. I keep the stone on my nightstand. I don't know why. Maybe it's a warning, maybe a reminder, maybe it's both. The girl comes more frequently now. She never ages, never smiles. She just sits at the foot of the bed in the rearview mirror behind closed eyes. She drums sometimes, not loudly, just enough to let me know the silence is over, just enough to say, still here. I tried to return again last month. Hollow Lake, the place that isn't a place. I drove for 2 days, followed the path like tracing veins to a heart I could no longer feel beating. Still nothing. Just empty fields and windmills and birds that circled too low. But I stopped, got out of the car and walked, and there it was. A single birch tree, split and blackened down the center. At its base, a hole. Not large, maybe the size of a child. Perfectly circular, filled with water so still it didn't even reflect. I didn't go in. I just stood near it, waited. The wind didn't move, but the grass around me began to lean inward, slowly, gently, as if breathing. I placed my hand over the hole, felt warmth, not heat, memory. And then, just for a second, I heard her voice again. May, not words, just a hum, a tune she used to sing while folding laundry or watering her porch plants, something so ordinary, so human. That's what hurt most, that I'd nearly forgotten it. That's what the drums do. They take away the noise so you can hear the truth, and sometimes the truth is how much you've lost. I left the hole untouched, returned to the car, drove for hours with no music, no phone, no destination, and when I stopped to sleep in the back seat, I dreamed of the lake again, but it wasn't frozen. It wasn't even wet. It was a field, dry and cracked, and beneath it, the drums were louder than ever. There's no resolution to this, no ending, just rhythm, just return. I write things down now, fragments, notes, small circles inked into napkins and receipts, trying to capture patterns I don't fully understand, trying to give shape to the thing inside me, the thing beneath me, the thing I am becoming. It's not possession, it's remembering. And memory is heavy, not sharp, not sudden, just weight, just time. So here's what I know. You may not believe any of this. You may think I've lost myself in grief or delusion or trauma. You may think this is just a story, and maybe it is. But if one day you wake up to the sound of something deep and distant, a slow, steady rhythm, a pattern you can't explain, don't cover your ears. Don't dismiss it. Step outside, listen, look around your home for a circle in the snow. Look for a stone on your windowsill. Check your mirror for someone who isn't quite behind you. And if you find them, don't ask why. Don't scream. Just nod. Just remember, the lake is not a place. It is a pulse. It does not need to be seen. It only needs to be heard. And the silence, the stillness, it is not peace. It is memory waiting its turn. You will hear the drums. We all do, eventually. 4 beats. Then silence, then 4 more. And if you listen closely, if you let the silence settle around it, you'll hear what I heard, what May heard, what the girl still hums to herself in the dark. We drum so you remember. And once you do, you will never forget again. The remembering doesn't stop. It doesn't get louder, only deeper. Like footsteps descending a staircase you didn't know was beneath your house. Somewhere far below the level of dream, of fear, of self, there is a door, and I think mine opened a long time ago. The others are coming forward now, some slowly, some all at once. People I haven't spoken to in years. People who vanished from Hollow Lake before the drums returned. They write. Short, strange letters. Handwritten, always. Never signed, never addressed, but I know they're meant for me. They arrive wrapped in brown paper, no return label, sometimes folded in half and shoved beneath my door in the night. One read, "Do you still hear it beneath your ribs? Good, that means it hasn't stopped." Another, "They're not ghosts. You have to stop thinking in terms of dead or alive. That's not the shape of what this is." And another, barely legible, written over and over on the back of an old receipt. "They're walking again, not in snow this time, in ash." I burned that one, but it didn't change anything. The words still whispered through my sleep. Ash, not snow. What does that mean? Is the place changing, or are we? I had another dream last night, or something beyond a dream. I was in the schoolhouse, May's schoolhouse, but it was empty. No desks, no chalkboard, just rows of drums, all different sizes, some tall and thin like tree trunks, others squat and wide, the surface stretched tight like skin. Each one was cracked, as if they'd been struck too many times. The girl stood at the front of the room. She pointed to a seat. I sat. She said nothing. Then the other seats filled. Slowly. People I almost recognized, their features incomplete, blurry as if I was remembering them through water. They all sat. No one moved. No one spoke. And then, drumming, not all at once. One beat at a time. First mine, then the person to my left, then the next, and it went around the room like that. A spiral, sound becoming memory, memory becoming rhythm, until it wasn't just a pattern, it was a sentence, something old, something true. I woke up sweating, heart pounding. I don't know what the sentence was, but I can still feel the shape of it in my chest, like it's waiting for me to remember the words. I think I'm forgetting how to speak about other things. When people talk to me now, at work, at the store, I struggle to answer. I look at their mouths and don't understand the sounds. I wait for pauses between their words to see if the rhythm is hidden there. Sometimes it is. 4 syllables, then silence, then 4 more. It's everywhere. In the blinking of traffic lights, in the way the elevator hums when it rises, in the uneven rhythm of a coworker's pen tapping the desk. They don't notice. They've not been tuned. But I notice. And the noticing never stops. I miss her. May. That simple version of her, the one who made tea and kept blankets folded in a neat stack by the couch. I don't think she's gone. But I don't think she's still her either. She's something more now, something woven into the quiet. And I wonder, when I stand at the edge of still water, does she see me? Does she remember who I was? Or do I look like everyone else who forgot? There was a knock at my door last week, 3 times, then silence, then one more knock. I knew better. I didn't open it. I waited, watched from the peephole, saw nothing. But on the other side of the door was a single footprint, pressed in ash, not snow, just as the letter had said. Since then, I've smelled it in the air like fire that never finished burning, like soil too dry to grow anything. And I've been having a new kind of dream. The lake, but drained, empty. A spiral of cracked earth where water used to be. The drums sound hollow now, not full, like something is trying to continue without the right instruments. What happens when we stop remembering? What happens when the spiral reaches its center and there's no one left to hear it? I think that's why I'm still here. Not to warn, not to flee, but to echo, to hold the rhythm a little longer until someone else hears it and understands. So if you find this, if the words feel familiar, if your breath starts sinking to 4 and pause, you may already know. You may have always known. We are not haunted. We are reminders. And the lake, it was never just a lake. It was a mouth, a drum skin stretched over a memory too large to forget. And now that it's dry, now that the surface has cracked and the birds have flown, the sound will have to come from us, from the ones still walking, still humming. Still folding blankets and sitting in silence and waiting for the right moment to knock. 4 beats, then silence, then 4 more. That's the call. That's the language. That's the truth. And if you answer it, if you let it inside, if you walk the spiral long enough, you will find us. Not beneath the ice, not in the ash, but in the spaces between. Waiting. Waiting is what we do now. It isn't passive. It isn't boredom. It's a posture, a stance, like a bird on a branch before the wind shifts. Still, but ready. Listening, not for sound, but for change. Some nights I think I've forgotten what it was like before the drums, before the remembering, when silence was just quiet and not the breath between something ancient. I try to recall the feel of soft music on a Sunday afternoon, of idle laughter unburdened by hidden rhythm. But those memories come to me like old film reels, warped at the edges, flickering in and out. Instead, I remember the cold, the fire on the lake, the way May's hand tightened on my wrist the first time the drums began, and the look in her eyes, not fear, but knowing, recognition of a promise kept too long in the dark. I went back to that fire in another dream, but the lake was gone. I was standing in the middle of a wide field of salt, white and dry, crusted in layers that crackled with every step. All around me were drums, half buried in the crust, their surfaces sun-bleached, brittle, I didn't touch them, but they began to sound on their own, muffled, distant, the way old memories do when you try to hold them still. Then the wind picked up. It didn't move the salt, didn't shift the sky, it just carried voices, faint, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, not screaming, not crying, just repeating, over and over. We drum so you remember. I woke up with that phrase in my mouth. I had been whispering it in my sleep, over and over. I'd bitten my tongue. It bled all morning. There are days I think I am the last one holding it, the last one beating the rhythm so the rest of the world doesn't slip, because I've started seeing the spiral again. Not in dreams, in cracks on the sidewalk, in the way trees bend near certain intersections, in the scum on puddles left after a storm. The world is folding inward, slowly, quietly, a spiral closing. Maybe it's not meant to be stopped. Maybe remembering is just another form of ending. I keep writing, even when my hands shake, even when my pen skips. I carve the words into paper, into wood, once into the soft paint on the inside of my kitchen cabinet door. Always the same phrase, always the same rhythm. We drum so you remember. And still no one knocks, not in that way. The girl hasn't appeared in weeks. The stones stopped arriving, the ash prints have faded. It's too quiet, and I know better than to trust quiet. I've started hearing new sounds, not drums, not voices, movement, something vast, shifting just beneath the crust of the world, like tectonic plates turning over in their sleep. I feel it in my feet, in my teeth. It makes the walls breathe, makes the mirrors fog. It doesn't want to be seen. It just wants to be known. I don't think I'm meant to leave this place anymore. I've tried. I pack the car, I drive, but the roads bend in ways they didn't before. They loop, they reset. I pass the same gas station 3 times with a full tank. The clock doesn't move. I'm back home by nightfall every time. The door unlocked, the stone waiting on my pillow again. I've stopped trying. Instead, I sit, I listen, and I write. I don't know what will happen when the last drum is struck, when the spiral finds its center, but I believe it's close. I can feel the pressure building, the silence thickening. The girl hasn't come back, but something else has taken her place. A shadow on the wall that doesn't belong to anything in the room. A breath on the back of my neck that never exhales. A lullaby playing in reverse through the hum of the refrigerator. If you're reading this, it means the rhythm has reached you. You might not hear the drums yet, but you will. You might not see the spiral, but it's beneath you, beneath all of us. Winding through basements and riverbeds, through cities paved over forgotten bones, through the cracks in your bedroom ceiling. You might try to ignore it, most do, but eventually the silence finds you, the right kind, the kind that remembers. And once it does, you'll begin to feel the rhythm inside yourself. Don't resist, don't run, just wait and listen. It will speak in 4 beats, then pause, then 4 more. And between the beats, something older than language will settle into your chest. It won't demand, it won't threaten, it will just ask you to remember. And when you do, when you finally see it for what it is, you'll understand why we keep drumming, why we never let the silence win, why we press our hands to the cold earth and let the rhythm pass through us like breath. Because the world forgets. It always forgets, and the spiral can't hold itself alone. But together we are the memory. We are the sound. We are the drums. And when the time comes, when the spiral ends, we will not scream. We will not run. We will not weep. We will lift our hands, close our eyes, and begin again. 4 beats, silence. 4 beats, silence, until there is no more forgetting, only remembering. Only remembering. This morning I woke before the drums. The sky was still that strange pre-dawn gray, heavy and blank, like it hadn't decided what kind of day to be. And everything felt expectant, like breath being held, like a stage just before the curtain lifts. The stone was gone, the cabinet door wiped clean, no more words etched anywhere. And I knew, somehow I knew. This was the end of the spiral, the last turn inward, the last beat. I dressed slowly, felt the rhythm pulsing not in my ears, but in the soles of my feet, like the earth beneath me was humming a private lullaby, and I followed it, out the door, down the stairs, into the morning mist, cool and clinging. No one else was outside, not even the birds. The streets looked dipped in glass, still and soft-edged, like the world was holding itself together just a few seconds longer. I walked with no destination. I let my steps follow the pulse. Left, right, pause. Left, right, pause. Until I reached a field. Not the lake, but it felt like it. It had that same breathless quiet, that same hush beneath the air. And I knew this was where I needed to be. The grass was dry, frost clung to its edges, and in the center, perfectly still, sat the girl. The same furs, the same two large sleeves, but she wasn't holding the drum anymore. She held nothing. Her hands rested in her lap. She looked at me, not past me, not through me, at me, and for the first time she spoke aloud. "You can rest now." The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. They were final, soft and low like the end of a prayer. I opened my mouth to speak, but there was nothing left to say. Only breath. Only silence. And that was enough. She stood, walked toward me, and for a moment the field shimmered, just slightly, like a ripple in time. And I saw them. May, the dancers, the shadows on the lake, every figure from the spiral gathered just behind the edge of the mist, their eyes not empty but full of memory, of knowing, of stillness. They didn't speak. They didn't move. They only waited, watched. And the girl took my hand. It was warm, solid. And then she placed my palm against my own chest, right over the heart, held it there, and nodded. I felt it then. Not just the rhythm, not just the remembering, but everything. The first drum on the frozen lake. The spiral drawn in dirt. The faces behind the masks. The weight of silence kept too long. The promise made before there were words to speak it. And I understood. Not in thought, but in rhythm. I closed my eyes, and everything stopped. No sound, no fear, no forward or back, just stillness, just peace. And in that final stillness, the last beat fell. 1, 2, 3, 4. Silence. Not the kind that waits. The kind that ends. I opened my eyes. The field was empty. The girl was gone. No footprints, no mist, just morning light on frost-kissed grass and a stillness that did not ache. I walked home slowly, knowing it was over. Not everything, just the spiral. It had found its center, and it had let go. Now the world can turn again. And we will forget. We always do. Until the lake freezes again, until the wind grows still, until something stirs beneath the surface, waiting to remind us that silence was never ours, and memory never dies. It only waits. 4 beats, then silence.